Hello guys and welcome back. And this is Pete Dahlgren. We're building the Maersk Models F86 and we're working on the wing. Now as you guys can see, I've been pretty busy. I've made some linkages on here and I'll show you this. But what I'm doing today is wiping glue off. Basically in a nutshell, what I've used is a 1/4 by 3/8. Now I've told you guys about this and it's it's really actually a very sound and solid way to actually go in and make this leading edge a lot more solid. And basically what this will do, if you look, you can't really see it under there, but basically after I sand it off, this gives you a really good solid leading edge platform and also gives the front of the sheeting a lot more of a bite. So what we do, what we do is we come in and we put this in, and then after it cures, of course, then I will sand it off to shape. Now, when you come in and you look at everything I've done here, the seams are good, the gap seals look good and everything else, but what I want to do here is kind of explain a little bit more about the linkage. And they're 440s, and they are all bolted in as you are. These are epoxied in, and the covers are all screwed down. And what I found works really well is I use T-nuts, but the problem with T-nuts is on plywood and stuff is the glue to them actually gets a little bit crazy. And even though they're really good for doing bigger parts like your pylons and all this other stuff, there is kind of an issue with getting them to screw into other plywood. And there is a trick to it as well that I want to show you on for threading a piece of wood. And that's what I did here. Now these are servo mounting screws and they're a hex type head. And what they do, and we're not going to worry about too much of this, I'll fill these areas and I will take this off and do. This is actually functioning now. It is glued and they do work extremely well. And functioning it does. Now I do have MPX connectors in here, and what I'm doing is I'm going to mount these in a plywood plank, but I'm going to roll all these wires into one, and then I am going to run another wire before I get too crazy in there just for electric brakes. And I think one of the big things is making these harnesses no big deal. I've already covered part of that. And running a wire in there needs to be done all at this point before we get too overly crazy and everything is secured in where it goes there. However, the electric brake is not going to run through the rest of it. It's going to run underneath here. And I'm going to run it so that it can be run into the... I'm just going to run it so that it actually goes through the retract area, and that can just be plugged in. Or I can run it through the MPX right here and leave one spot in there and wire it in there. Because I do have two other wires in two spots for another two wires and MPX connectors. Now what I will do is I will take a piece of plywood, and this is not plywood, but what I will do is I will actually take and bolt it. Take a piece in, I will bolt it, and I will cut it. And you could use balsa if you really wanted to here, because this is not real structural. And then you would just surface mount and epoxy that mount into that, like that. And then they will sit in here like this. They will just sit in like that. You got plenty of room. And what that'll do is that'll let you, what it's going to actually do is allow you to have just not so many wires in a capacity. On a plug-in system, and that's what I'm going to do back there, it'll work. But just on certain things, it needs to be that way just to eliminate a bunch of connections going bad. They're just a better connection. So I'm doing that. My air lines are run. I got to get some more for the other wing. But the main thing is here is that I need to make some pieces to go in here before I glue the leading edge in. just to secure these and keep them from moving around. And it's just simple scrap plywood. I'll just drill holes in it and then mount them and glue them in place. And I'll do that before I do the leading edge. I've only glued up to these points is because everything else is secured in the back, and I'll show you a little bit more on how I do that. And what I'm doing is just, I will just simply drill a hole in here and zip tie those wires so they don't move around. And I do have a lot of extra wires should I need to do any connection repairs or anything else. I left myself quite a bit. And I like to do that because it also works like a fish. Should you have to pull another wire through, you can tie it in a knot, you can pull it right through. So you don't want to put too much in there, you just want enough in there. And I will utilize areas like right here and just get these in. This one, of course, needs to be run through to where it actually is wild. And then I know exactly what wires go where. So basically doing this is all good. And I'll fix a lot of this stuff up when I get ready to glass this. I'll do a little filling in here. We'll do all of our sanding and filling that is necessary on this before we glass. And the reason I like to do that is because I can feather it out really easy. This will not take a lot, but I don't want to oversand the wing, and that's very important. And the main reason why I'm doing them one at a time like this is that I can ensure that these glue joints are perfectly tight and not going to go. It's very structural. This wing does not flex or move at all. And just to ensure that it didn't, I made sure that I didn't cut that off until I actually needed to, and I can do it now. But I'll do it all and sand all this stuff up. Now, when I do this, I will actually run the sander over all of this and make sure that all of this stuff is flat and there's no bumps in it. And it's very simple. It goes very fast. And I do this just to make sure that it's flat, it's like so. You're just wanting to see everything in a flat spot, so then you don't got any bumps in it. So that's just basically what I'm doing, and I will do some more cutting and this and that. I'm gonna let this dry. It'll take it a few hours. It's warm now, so things are drying quickly. I will actually glass and actually put the glass through on all around and cut in all these hinge points. And I'm finding it better to do now to get everything kind of set up. I'm doing it now because it's easily unbolted on this part. And they, as you can see, they work extremely smooth. And I have done a functioning test before I even done all these to make sure all those connections are good. And that's pretty much where I'm at on the swing. Now this is going to take some time for it to cure up and dry, but it's nice and tight. And if you true your wing up like I showed you, you come back in like in here and sand them out, get all these edges down to where they're actually no bumps. And that's what you're looking for, and just feel them with your finger. Then I will come back. The next sheet that I will put on is actually this one here. Will be this leading edge. And as you can see by here, it will, I'll put it on like so. Okay. And this leading edge will go, and I will actually bevel it into that one because it's a lot stronger to do it that way. And I'll only do the one leading sheet. The rest of these are going to go this way. The only reason that one is coming in here is because it's a straight edge and it gives me everything to work with on that. The rest of these sheets will get smaller as they go in, and it'll only be, like I said, it's only going to be, there'll be one, and if you look here, it'll be one, and this one will be a full sheet. But I want to make sure you guys understand something. You don't ever want any of those to be like this. So this one will run all the way in, and I'll use a shorter one over here. I don't like any of the joints to match anything that's already there. And what I have also done is I've also put in a piece of balsa, scrap balsa, between the Jeep. It's only a 1/4 inch wide, and I've glued it into this, up into this one. So it's actually, in fact, about 4 inches long, and it goes right in here. And I've done this everywhere there is a seam in that. The reason being for it is because I don't want anything separating and breaking. It won't do it anyway, but it's insurance, and I just want to make sure that it's okay to do that. So as I do these next few sheets, I will show you about doubling a little bit on here. And it's very important that your seams, it is fairly important that your seams are actually, like this one would actually probably go here, but what we want to do is actually bring it back and cut it off a little bit. And it's kind of hard to give you a good demonstration what that is right now because of this. And the reason I would say that is you don't want to ever split anything on a spar. The spars, there's 9 of them in here, so it's kind of like, yeah, use your best judgment on your sheeting. But as you can see, I've actually crisscrossed the grains. One grain goes this way, the other one goes that way, with the exception of the front one. And it'll be fine. So, and I do like to run these just a little bit. Well, I got clamps in the way. I can't really show you too much, and I can't really show you with these on here. But this will give you an idea. Once that one goes on, and I cut this one in, they will actually form around that a lot better, a whole lot easier, and you can kind of double action this thing, because when you go to put, I laminate my leading edges, and once I put the leading edge on here like so, and it's flat, it'll be just a few sheets, but what'll happen is it's going to be like putting a strip of plywood across the front of here. As a matter of fact, it's what it is. And so I like to laminate the edges, and I learned this trick when building my Spitfire, which was a round wing, and I kept seeing how when they drug the wing tips, they broke, and they broke a lot. So there was no real second guessing on a lot of that. But another thing too is I've also ordered another 20 sheets of wood for the other wing, and they do take a lot, but weight wise, guys, with the servos in there, whoops, that was good. Should leave stuff alone when it's drying. But anyway, with this in here, this with the weight in it and the retract, not very heavy. It's very light. And that's with all the electronics in it. It's extremely light. And once I put it on the airplane, it's done. Another thing too, guys, you want to make sure that when you put this bolt in here, you've epoxied it. I'm using stainless steel. And there's one bolt that holds the whole thing together once it's on the tube. So you don't need any more than that. I put a dowel in here for a guide pin, and that's basically holding it so that when I put it in there, it's not even a big issue or problem. Now that hole in that thing goes in right here. And that is the hole that mounts that. And we will match up everything else in here for the landing gear. I can go ahead and cut this out. And this is one of the things that I tell guys, I leave these like a masking. And a knife just cuts them right out without any issue or any problems whatsoever. And that is the landing gear door, or the strut hole for the retract. This one, we can go ahead and we'll cut it out as well, and it's just, it goes that fast. And it's just that easy. Now, one thing that we got to do in here is start getting things ready for other systems to go in there. And once I make the rest of that wiring harness while that stuff is drying, I'll be getting. Now, sheeting this wing takes considerably a lot longer to do this way, but I assure you, by doing it this way, it's so much better. And it's just, for me, I've never had a wing ever fail by sheeting it in this method. You know, on elliptical wings, it's really the ones that are round. This is about the only way you can really do them and actually get them to be extremely strong, because you have so many directions. And this is no different. So it's really no different. Now when I get ready to go in here, I will drill. I will go down and I will get a balsa block for this. And I will drill a hole through it. I'll run this out. Okay. And then I am going to make the clear lenses. I'm going to show you how I plunge mold those two. That's actually a lot of fun to make those. And you just need a heat gun and some Lexan plastic and you're gold. And on top of that, I'm going to be covering my wiring connections back here and other little things that I'm doing. And start getting things to where this jet is going to start getting a lot closer to almost ready. I could almost damn near go made in the damn thing. So I'm still waiting on gear. It's somewhere in the United States, hasn't been here. We got a lot of work to do. We got a lot of plumbing to do. We got a lot of things to do. We got air tanks, a lot of electrical. We got a lot of things to mount up. And there's a lot of pieces and parts that go all over this airplane. Got a lot of satellites to put in for the receiver. We got a lot of things to do, but in order to do that, we actually need to take and actually clean the airplane. And that's just a very simple day-long process, going in, sanding off overspray and blowing it out and vacuuming. And then we'll get back onto the riveting and other things that are doing this. We're working on all the systems, getting linkages and all those things made. While one thing's drying here, I'm back on this. When I'm there, if I'm too dirty, I don't do anything with this until this is ready to go. But the goal in line on this thing is actually get it to where I can start glassing the bottoms, and I'd like to do them both at the same time. And so that may be the issue and the point of interest to do. And I want to go up there and let you guys know this is a good time to double check and make sure you have enough material to do and cover your wings with fiberglass, because this took quite a bit, but that one there doesn't. And it's one of those deals where you just got to kind of look it over. But anyway, until then, guys, I will see you in the funny papers. I'm going to get back and actually go and start getting some other things accomplished here. And that means I'm going to start the other wing while this one is drying and start getting things done with it. But anyway, until then, see you guys in the funny papers.